Thank you all for joining the manufacturing webinar. Today, Darshan, our lead for manufacturing, supply chain, and third-party logistics, and Snehanshu, our director of solution architecture, will demonstrate how Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central can streamline manufacturing operations and reduce supply chain challenges faced by manufacturers. They will show the rich features of the manufacturing module in Business Central and explain how these features are useful for mapping complex business scenarios within manufacturing operations. The key areas demonstrated will be product management, supply chain planning, production scheduling and execution, and production cost analysis. Later, there will be a question and answer session, so please comment your questions throughout the webinar, and the team will answer them at the end. So now I'll hand over to Darshan and Snehanshu. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Darshan is our subject matter expert on supply chain and manufacturing. So today I'm going to throw some tough questions to him, and I'm sure he's going to give us a great insight about the manufacturing features in Business Central. So just to start, Darshan, I'm just wondering how good is the manufacturing features in D365 Business Central? Can this be an end-to-end solution for the manufacturing industry?
Yes, definitely. So we'll start with the product management. So Business Central offers the product management in terms of finished good, semi-finished, raw material, and consumable. On top of that, it also offers the production BOM with multiple versions and multi-level production BOM, production routing to take care of manufacturing operation and processes, MPS and MRP, which is the heart of any manufacturing planning, production scheduling, production costing, and subcontracting. Business Central offers this all feature for any required for any manufacturing industry, whether it's a process industry or discrete manufacturing.
Fantastic. So you were saying all these details are there, means the product management and the multi-level BOM and all those things. Can you elaborate on this subject, product management and the multi-level BOM and all those areas in the manufacturing aspect of Business Central?
Yes, sure. In the next slide, we are going to talk about specifically product management features in D365 Business Central. I'm going to cover mainly these three areas: items, production BOM, and routings. So items, which is nothing but the products, it offers how to categorize the item, multiple unit of measure, lot and serial number tracking, which is very essential in process industry as well as in discrete manufacturing. Inventory planning, which is the heart of manufacturing planning, and costing methods. Production BOM, it offers to configure a multi-level BOM and version management for the production BOM. Routings, configure state of operation, capture various types of process times, link operation with the BOM. This is really helpful to configure a just-in-time concept for the inventory management and version management. Let's see in Business Central how these all features available in the Business Central. This is a home page in the Business Central. I will go into the items. So this is a list of items. And on the right-hand side, you can see these are the fact box to capture the various information about that product. On the right-hand side, you can see there are attributes. So attributes can be configured for a particular item to further define some additional information and filter those items based on that information here. This is the item card. Item master can be categorized based on the various number series. For example, for finished items, it can start with FG. Raw materials can start with RM. And for WIP, it can start with WIP. So this gives a great flexibility to configure your item master based on the various number series. At the same time, the item categories can be defined to further categorize the list of items. Replenishment methods can be defined depending on that item, how it is going to be replenished. For example, finished item and semi-finished items are going to replenish based on the production order. Other consumables and raw materials will be replenished based on the purchasing policy. Manufacturing policies can be defined like make to stock, make to order, BOM and routings. Flushing method for the raw materials, which is typically required based on the type of raw material. If it's a key ingredient or raw material, then it will be a manual flush consumption method. For consumables, it could be forward or backward flushing method can be configured. Lot size, that is nothing but the standard batch size, which can be very useful in process manufacturing for example, food processing or any chemical manufacturing, where standard batch size can be configured. Workflows can be configured to define approval workflow whenever any new item master is created. There are a few advanced features to calculate the forecast and inventory availability of the item. System calculates last 12 months or 24 months history and suggests the inventory as well as sales forecast. Production BOM. Multi-level production BOM can be configured. For example, in this case, if you can see, this is a production BOM for finished items and production BOM for the semi-finished item. At the same time, phantom bill of materials can also be defined into the production BOMs. Production BOM can be linked with specific routing operations. For example, in this case, these three items are going to use in assembly operation. So it can be linked to a specific operation in the production routing to manage the inventory so that just-in-time concept can be implemented for the inventory management. Multiple versions of the production BOM can be used so that the master production BOM will remain as it is, and on top of that, multiple versions can be created which can be activated further in a future date, so that system can automatically pick up the revised version. Routings. Routing offers a great flexibility to define various operations within the manufacturing process. For example, it could be serial or parallel operations based on how complex is the manufacturing operation here. In this case, these are the two operations defined here, winding and assembly for induction motors. Further, various process times can be configured in the routing apart from the runtime. For example, setup time, wait time, move time, scrap percentage. Yeah, so these are the few of the rich features which Business Central offers in terms of product management.
That was nice, Darshan. Thank you very much. So Business Central has the capability in terms of the product management very well. in terms of production, bill of material, and the processes of routings and all those details. And I believe you have mentioned here that you also have the options of linking the BOM with the linking the routing with the raw material consumptions, I believe. Now that was great. Now we understand the capability part. So can we speak about the overall process of the supply chain in the Business Central? Can you give us some sample, give us some overview of how the process is there, or how the process is happening in Business Central?
Yes, definitely. In our next slide, we are going to see how Business Central offers that flexibility and rich features to configure a complete supply chain operating model. Supply chain operating model with multiple sites, multiple demand and supply channels. Over the period of time, when organization grows, typically manufacturing companies, they operate with a more complex supply chain operating model. To support this growth and this complex supply chain operating model, there has to be a very strong operational processes and business applications like ERP, which is the backbone to support these complex operations and supply chain operating model. Let's see a simple example here, how Business Central can support such complex supply chain operating model. We have taken a simple example here for Kronos Engineering, which manufactures the cooling fans. Traditionally, they used to sell their products through B2B customers, that is a B2B channel. Over the period of time, they explored the more sales channel to sell their products. So they started selling their products to B2C channels through e-commerce portal. Now, to cater that demand of B2C customers, they established their distribution centers through various geographical locations. These distribution centers has to always refill with some minimum inventory. So hence, they always do the stock transfer of the products to the distribution center. In this case, the sales demand of all this distribution center plus the demand of safety stock is getting consolidated to their factory. Now to other challenge, the business is to keep the cost of the production economical so that they can compete in the market. So Kronos Engineering, they started sourcing their key raw materials from the China. Now, to achieve that, they have to also look into the logistic processes. They have to also consider the high lead time as well as the standard MOQ of the vendor. For example, full container or half container. So in that way, they have to consolidate their forecasted demand and generate the material requirement planning accordingly. Now to cater this increased sales demand, Kronos Engineering, they decided to subcontract few of their products to their subcontractor to add additional capacity for the manufacturing. Now considering all this picture, this has become a very complex operating model and which needs very strong system to support this. D365 Business Central offers that scalability and rich features to support this supply chain operating model. Let's see few of these features in D365 Business Central, which are very useful to configure such supply chain operating model. Locations which are nothing but the various sites. For example, the Birmingham is a manufacturing sites. DC 1, 2, 3, 4, these are the distribution centers. And this is a subcontracting location. These sites can be configured from the basic configuration to the advanced configuration so that For example, zones and bins level configuration can also be configured within the Business Central. Work centers in terms of production capacity. So work center based on the various production department, winding, assembly, packing, unit 1 and unit 2 can be configured. Plus, if there is any subcontracting location, so that can be also configured as a subcontracting work center. Further, under every work center, machine centers can also be configured. In this example, under winding work center, there are 2 machine centers are configured, winding machine 2 and winding machine 2. So that becomes a consolidated capacity under that work center. Further production scheduling can be done at machine center level, which we are going to see in the next slide. Our next part is how to configure the supply chain operating model and decide the flow of inventory and how to consolidate the multi-channel demand and supply. For example, roof cooling fan. As we have seen, it offers the various replenishment policies, whether it's a production purchase. So if this roof cooling fan 18-inch, this is going to be produced within the own manufacturing facility. But if in future it is going to be subcontracted to subcontracting location, then its replenishment system can be changed to purchase. Reordering policies based on the type of item, various types of reordering policy can be defined. For example, if it's an A-class item, which having a high value and high lead time, it can be configured for the lot for lot. If it's a B-class item, it can be configured fixed reordering quantity so that system will always suggest a replenishment based on the minimum stock level. If it's a consumables, then it can be configured for maximum quantity so that maximum stock can always be maintained within the warehouse. There are a few advanced planning parameters which helps to tune the whole supply chain and inventory management process. For example, minimum order quantity. So this is a standard quantity MOQ with the vendor. Maximum order quantity to define the cap limit for the purchases to avoid the risk of the overbuying, as well as order multiple. That is, what's the standard packing size of the supplier. Item tracking is helpful in the food industry or chemical industry to track the products based on the batch tracking system. And also expiry date can be defined for such an items. Apart from that, stock keeping units are really helpful to define the complete supply chain model. For example, in this case, I can see the stock keeping unit is defined for Birmingham, which says a production, so that a B2B demand is always been redirected to Birmingham location. Now, if there is a B2C demand to my distribution center for this product, so system will always redirect that or fulfill it by creating a transfer orders from Birmingham. By doing that, system is transferring the sales demand of my distribution center to the Birmingham location. Using this stock keeping unit, we can configure the complex supply chain models.
Trust me, Darshan, that was fantastic. So I have seen manufacturing features in isolated manner, but really you have demonstrated those features in a nice chained way and a nice storyline. That really good. So, and it seems that Business Central is really have the features for all aspects of supply chain. So that's the nice example of an operation, supply chain operations. But question arises, what about the planning and the execution of the planning? Does Business Central has a good planning option?
Yes. it does have. We'll see in the next slide. MPS and MRP, that is Master Production Schedule and Material Requirement Planning. Business Central Planning Engine, it will analyze the inventory demand and supply position, which will be analyzed in the Business Central's planning engine, and it generates the MPS and MRP signals. MPS signals are converted into the production orders, and MRP signals are converted into the purchase orders. Let's see into the Business Central, how Business Central generates those MRP and MPS signals. The planning worksheet is a heart of the manufacturing planning, where planner can generate the MPS and MRP signals. The planner can also generate these signals for a single manufacturing location, or he can generate this planning signal by consolidating or selecting multiple manufacturing and distribution center locations. On top of that, he can also generate the material requirement planning by applying a filter for specific categories. For example, critical raw materials will MRP for the critical raw materials will be generated every week. But on the other hand, class B and C items, its MRP will be generated fortnightly, considering next 3 or 4 weeks demand. If you can see here, these are the signals generated by the system. So production orders, what is a type of action message, whether it's a change quantity new. So system also considers the current position of the inventory, and accordingly it will ask to increase or decrease the inventory, as well as it will ask to reschedule. So in certain cases, if the production order is scheduled in the next week and there is a shortage of the raw materials, so system will ask to reschedule certain purchase orders so that there won't be any shortage in the production shop floor. The other lines, these are the raw materials, and system has generated the purchase requisition lines. Requisition lines with the order type as a purchase, these are further transferred to the requisition worksheet, where a buying team will convert them into the purchase orders. And production orders are going to convert into the firm plan production orders or plan production orders. Further, user can also analyze the demand, source of the demand, so that they can understand the signals generated by the system are correct. For example, in this case, user can use the order tracking function to see what is the source of demand, and he can reconcile or check the suggestion given by the system.
That's pretty good. You have something about the execution part as well?
Yes.
So this is the
Production scheduling and execution.
So this is the 4 aspect of the scheduling and execution and batch tracking and some great. Okay, please, Darshan, go ahead.
Yes. Scheduling, in terms of scheduling, Business Central offers visual production scheduling, where a production manager or production planner, he can see what's the capacity load in terms of works center, machine center, or he can also see by production orders. We'll see this in the short. On the material consumption, material consumption policies can be defined, as we have seen in the item master, whether it's a manual or backflush or forward flush. So according to defined policy, raw materials will be consumed in the released production orders. Batch tracking, which is very important in food processing or chemical industry or any pharmaceutical manufacturing, where a batch tracking can be configured for raw materials, semi-finished, finished, or packing materials as well. On top of batch tracking, expiry date can also be captured. system, Business Central offers a complete traceability of the batch. Subcontracting work centers can be configured and it can be linked with the subcontracting supplier, so that subcontractor purchase order is always linked with the subcontractor's production orders. And whenever semi-finished or finished items are received from the subcontractor, a purchase order is against purchase order, Business Central automatically posts output against the production order. Let's see the scheduling capability in the Business Central. So this is a capacity view where a production planner, he can see, okay, next week, which are the production orders are planned and how they are being, what is the load of individual operation or work center. In this case, I can see in the winding department, there are 2 production orders are configured on 18 and 19. I will further zoom in. So production order number 3 and 4. And there is a next operation of assembly. After winding, it goes to the assembly. So next is the assembly operation is going to start. Now, on the winding department, we have 2 winding machines, 1 and 2. So I want to load this production order on winding machine 1. So I will just drag and drop this production order here. And second production order, I'm going to load on machine 2. Production manager can also change the view to see by production order. So in this way, he can identify how each production order, how long it is going to run, and he can also view the progress. There are different options available here to see the progress or capacity view, enable focus mode. For example, if I go and change progress view, so it will always show me which is the next operation link, and it will always change the color whenever there is a production output is posted. So this gives a complete flexibility for the production planner to see or manage the overall capacity and production schedule. Item tracing feature is very helpful to trace a particular lot. For example, in this case, I want to trace the history of this lot and related raw materials consumed in this. Business Central item tracing feature gives a complete tracking of when this particular lot was manufactured and which are those other raw materials or ingredients being used. So in this case, this is a food related item, chicken salad sandwich, which was manufactured on 16th of September. Then there is a semi-finished item used. So this is a batch number, and there is a raw material being used, ingredient is used. So this is the batch number, and we can also track who was a vendor and which was a purchase order. This feature gives a complete traceability of the batch, and user can also see the source documents, which is very essential in the food as well as chemical or pharmaceutical manufacturing companies.
Thanks, Darshan. So my next question is, so I was just thinking, one of the teething problem in the manufacturing industry with the traditional software, I could hear that costing, like what is the cost of the finished good based on various factors. Does a Business Central manages or has the relevant reporting aspect of the costing part?
Yes. So in next slide, we are going to see how Business Central calculates the cost for the production order or production batch, and which are the cost components it considers. Now, these are the very high level cost components here. So production first is a material cost. So it comes from the bill of material, which are the raw materials or semi-finished packing material or consumables are going to use to produce a finished item. Then production overhead cost, which comes from the machine center or work center. Production overhead cost can be configured to load based on the per unit of production output or runtime basis. Addition to these cost components, indirect material cost, which gets loaded to the raw material. For example, freight cost, customs duty, insurance. These are the additional cost components which gets loaded on the raw material cost, and same has to be loaded to the final production batch. Business Central takes care all these cost components in the consideration while calculating the production cost. Apart from the standard report, the Power BI reports can also be used in the Business Central, and these reports can also be embedded within the Business Central role center. So these are the few examples of Power BI report in the form of very bird's eye view or in the dashboard form, how the production related reports can be generated. For example, a production output process. So this is by process, how the output is getting generated, by item, by category, and by date. So this gives a complete analysis about the production, daily production or weekly production outputs. Average yield. So this report gives here what is the average yield by production process, so that a production manager, he can see, are we achieving the required yield for each and every processes. If there is any deviation, then they can quickly take action, and he can see under this process which are the production orders been closed in this specific period. This report is again gives the analysis for the yield. So output weight by item category. So to analyze the yield performance by product categories or by specific item. Now this performance analysis can also be done for a specific period. A production manager, he can change the period and compare between the two periods what is the yield percentage, and then he can take the necessary action to improve the process or take an action against the raw material. Yeah, so this is how Business Central offers the features to track the production cost.
Fantastic. Thank you all our audience. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, you can put those questions in the Q&A sections, and we'll try to answer them here. If we have any queries which we cannot answer right away, we have your contacts, and we can definitely come back to you over a mail. So Darshan, there are a couple of questions you can go to and see in the Q&A sections. In the published section, there are a couple of queries. Check if we can answer them here itself.
Okay. How can we define the capacity and reserve capacity? Is the solution have capacity to handle it? Yes, capacities are defined in terms of number of hours a particular machine center or work center is being used. Now, if there is, in terms of reserve capacity, the capacity gets reserved when any planned or firm planned production orders is assigned or occupies that particular capacity, so that a particular firm plan production order or plan production order, for example, it is scheduled to run for tomorrow 8 hours per shift. So that particular capacity of that machine or work center is allocated to that production order. Any next production order gets allocated to the next shift or next available capacity slot. Now, if there is a downtime or any maintenance schedule, so there is a non-working task or activities are scheduled so that that slot of capacity, for example, a weekly maintenance schedule is always happen Tuesday, which always runs a first shift. So those calendars can be defined, and that capacity will always be as system will not consider that time slot for planning or scheduling the production.
Yeah, Darshan, before you take up any questions, I could see one question is there, which says that is the virtual scheduler, which you demonstrated, is included in the standard Business Central, or is it something else?
Okay, so the visual production scheduler, it's an add-on product and which works on top of Business Central. And it is available, I believe this is a question. It's available in version NAV 2018 as well.
So this is a scheduler which can be utilized by both Navision as well as Business Central. So if you want to understand, dear audience, if you want to know more details about the same, you can always send us a mail and we can send you back all the details regarding that add-ons.
Okay. Now this specific feature is related to, say, it's an advanced feature which gives the sales forecast and the forecasted inventory. Now, it talks to some Azure function and generates the forecast. And for forecasted inventory level, it considers the forecasted sales, definitely, which is that's forecast generated by system, as well as inventory on hand and other supplies. For example, if it's a raw material, then purchase orders, or if there are any plant production orders, then it will consider those are the interim supplies already planned. So all those factors it considers. And based on that, it gives us for next 3 months, if it's a monthly period, what would be the inventory position.
Yeah. So I just want to I reiterate here that Business Central has certain connection, or it can be easily integrated with other AI products. But there are 5 different AI connection is there with the Business Central with certain Microsoft designed AI functions, which are like, one is this forecast. You also have the integrations with cash flow forecast. You also have the integrations related to item attributes and so on. So these are and this is growing. On top of that, it is very easy to integrate Business Central with any other AI capabilities.
I believe there is one question is related to the recording. I believe, Scott, you can take care of this.
Yep, sure, no problem. So yes, we will be sending a recording of this webinar to all the people who have attended and anyone else who is interested. So please reach out, and also any contacts who might be interested, who you know, please let them know, and we can send to them as well.
Yeah, thank you, Scott.
No problem.
I believe there is one more question here. Can the demand be generated based on the confirmed sales orders, sales budget? Can it also be considered confirmed purchase orders and stock quantity level? Yes. So demand is generated by confirmed sales orders, and sales budget feature. So it's a marketing feature where marketing people uploads their sales budget or marketing plan. Now that marketing plan has to be consolidated with a demand forecast. So that data needs to also be uploaded to the demand forecast once your marketing plan is finalized. So that process works in that way. For example, we have a marketing plan for next 3 months, October till December, of 500 units to sell. Now, in month of November, we got the confirmed order of, let's say, 300 units. Okay. Now, system will net off between the sales forecast and your confirmed sales orders. So 300 units, it will pick from the confirmed sales orders, and it will check for remaining forecast, that is 200 units. So it will always give you the to produce for 500 units. If there is a sales demand, confirmed sales demand goes beyond your forecasted demand, then it will always pick up the confirmed demand. It will not add these two. So in that way, system intelligently manages the inventory planning as well. And yes, the second sub question to that, it also considers the confirmed purchase orders and on-hand stock position of the inventory. If there is any reservations against the purchase orders already, so it will also consider that. So it will net off all those demand and supply position of the inventory. If any other questions are welcome, please.
There's a new question from Rakesh at the bottom.
Oh, yes. Yeah, so label printing is something not the default in the business center, because the labels, those depends on the size of labels and label printers. So that is something, unfortunately, is not a default in the business center. Those needs to be developed as per the requirement of the company to company.
Just to give you a note, in the previous answer, Darshan told you that marketing plan, he actually meant that the sales plan. It's not really a marketing plan. He was talking about the sales plan.
Yeah, thanks, Hassan.
Rakesh just sent another message and clarified. He said he means the barcode sticker.
Yes. So those something, unfortunately, is not as a standard within the business center, but it can be easily developed within the business center. Thank you, Rakesh.
Some of the features, Rakesh, just to mention here, if you see the new feature plan of Business Central, they are in this pipeline. This barcode sticker printing and all those things are in the pipeline, and it will be there very soon in Business Central.
Okay, I think we can wrap up there. Like you said, Darshan, there's no new questions coming through. So if anyone has any further questions, please reach out. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending, and thank you, Darshan and Snehanshu, for that great information.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.